This is lecture number 2 of programming in C. So today we will discuss about the characteristics of high-level languages, and we discuss about the programming in C and IDE and the few basic other things about the programming in C. So let's start today's class. Characteristics of a programming languages are characteristics of a high-level language. So we can say the features of high-level languages are characteristics of high-level language. Another question we can raise for this, like why we are using these high-level languages. So we can try to get the answer of these all questions from this topic. So programming languages were developed to make the computer programming simple, easy, and less prone to errors. Like these languages, we already discussed, the high-level languages is just like an English language. So it is quite easy to understand and to write the program in high-level languages, and we can easily find out the error. Like there's a less chance of occurrence of errors, and we can easily find out the errors from these languages. So that's why we prefer the high-level languages. The second and most important features of high-level languages is that like it is not depend on machine. Like when we discuss in machine language, so we said every machine has its own language. Like for example, if we have the machine of a Dell or Intel or HP, so every machine has its own software. If we write down that software in machine language or a binary language. But in the case of high-level language, a software or program designed in a high-level language you can use on every machine, either it's HP, Dell, or any other. So we can say machine language are not machine dependent. They enable programmers to write the program to which is not depend on machine. Number third, programmers written in high-level languages must be translated into machine language by using compiler and interpreter. Once again, we already discussed in previous topics, like computer only understand binary language, that is the 0-1. So that's why we said it's the language of a computer. So the question is that, like we said, the high-level languages are English just like an English language. So how can computer or how can machine understand? So for this purpose, we use the different softwares which convert the high-level languages into machine language. In next topic, we will cover in detail like how these softwares are work. The process of finding and removing the error in high-level language is quite easy, and the process of finding and removing the error from program or software, we can say that is the debugging. So how we can define it? The error occur in a program is called bug, and the process of finding and removing the error from program is called debugging. That is, you can say, is the definition of debugging. The process of finding and removing the error from the program is called debugging. The high-level language programs are highly structured. Like we see that there's a different types of languages, is a structured, unstructured, reputational. So the high-level languages are highly structured, and they mostly contain the different modules or short, small programs. Like the advantage is that like we can break a large program or a large software into small modules or small part, which is easy to design and understand as well. So these are the features of the high-level languages, or you can say the characteristics of high-level language. And the third one, like why we prefer high-level languages. So let's start the compiler and interpreter. Right now, before this, we discussed like computer only understand binary languages, that is the 0-1. But we write the program, we design the software in a high-level language. So how our computers understand? So for this purpose, we use the different softwares. With the software that is the compiler, which convert the high-level language into machine code. I repeat it once again: language translators which convert high-level language into machine language that is the understandable by the machine. So how we can define it? The compiler is a computer software that translates the source programs into object program. Here we use the two terms, that is the source program and another one is the object program. So what is the source program? A source program, the word derived from the source of information, like we can say. So similar, the program in high level language that is designed by the users or a programmer, that is the main source. So the program designed in high level language or a code in a high level language is called source program. And after the conversions, once we convert these high level language into machine language, the code we obtain is called object program. So once again I repeat it, source program, a program written in a high level language, is called source program, and after the compilation or interpretation, the code we obtain in binary form is called object program. So these are the two different questions, like what is the source program and what is the object program. So the object program is the understandable by the computer processor, but difficult for the human to read it and understand because it consists on 0 and 1. So the second one, language translator, the type of language translator is the interpreter. The same function of interpreter which convert the high level language into machine language into a binary form. But the question is that, so why we use the interpreter or why we use the compiler? So we can say, what is the differentiate between the compiler and interpreter? So the compiler convert the source program, compiler convert the whole program, whole source code into machine language, into binary form at once. Like compiler is start translating, let's suppose from here, and we continue and the code the complete paragraph at once and then generate the output. But interpreter, in the case of interpreter translate high level language into machine language line by line or statement by statement, not at once. So we can say the response time of the interpreter is faster than compiler, but if we compare overall, so the speed of compiler is faster than interpreter. So you are clear about the compiler and interpreter. So interpreter translates the high level language programs into machine language, but it translates one instruction at the time and execute it immediately before the translating the next instruction. Like first they get the input, they get the source program, they translate it first statement, execute it, and then move on next one. So by this way, one by one, interpreter execute all the statements. So the next one, that is the programming environment. The question is that how we can design these softwares, what are the software that we use to design, that is used to develop a program, that is used to develop a software. So the environment in which we design the computer software, we write down the codes, we convert into machine language, we debug, compile or link. So that environment is known as the programming environment. So programming environment is a set of process and the programming tools used to develop a computer programs. In the past, programmers used various standalone programming tools for developing. Standalone mean like they use one software for editing, one for compiling, another software for linking. Like they use the different softwares or different tools to compile or to design a programs. But that is quite difficult for the programmers. So but nowadays we use the IDE, which is known as Integrated Development Environment, like an environment in which everything is located in one software. Like we can write the program, we can edit it, we can compile, we can link and debug in a same environment. So that environment is known as the IDE. Most of the new programming language use integrated development. Most of the new programming languages use integrated development environment (IDE) to create, compile, and run the computer programs. IDE is a computer software that brings all the process and tools required by the programmers development into one place. Like IDE is a complete package software, is a software in which we can design, we can compile, we can edit, and link and perform the all other functions uh, at one place. So what are the different functions that we perform? So these are the first one, the first step, that is the text editor, like where the programmer have to write down the code. The second step is a compiler, because the code written in a high level language, so before give it to the computer we have to convert into binary language. So compiler, the next step, that is the compiler, which convert that the source code into object program. Then linking, we have to link the different library files. We also discussed in this chapter like what is library files and why we need to link. Now loader load the program from disk to memory, because everything should be loaded into memory before the execution. So loader is used to load the code that we obtained from the compiler into a memory. So the last one, that is the debugger. We define it, I repeat it once again. The error occur in a program is called bug, and the process of finding and removing the error from the program is called debugging. So if you see here in the pictures, try to explain like how it's work. First we have to write down the source program, like we have the code that written by the programmer in a high level language, give it to the compiler, that is the software, which convert into a binary form, that is known as the object program. Then with linking software, we link the different library functions. These are the library functions, and then it becomes the executable file. We load into memory and execute it. So this is the working of the IDE. So these are tools provided at one place by IDE. We can perform text editing, compilation, linking, loading, and debugging by using the IDE, which is also known as C compiler.